Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are this nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I am your co-host Ben. And first off, of course, today being September 11th, we have to give a shout out to all the first responders out there who did so much work that day, and of course all the victims of that horrible tragedy. These 17 years ago, and I don't know if it's because it's around this time of year or if it's just now really being felt, but more and more stories are coming out about the long-lasting effects of the first responders, and all that horrible dust and whatnot causing things such as cancer and respiratory problems. And almost to a T. Of course, these are the only ones that I've seen through media reporting and the like. But almost all the ones I've seen said that they, it's unfortunate what's happening to them. They wish it wasn't, but they wouldn't change anything about what they did that day, in New York. So, again, to everyone still with us who may be listening and maybe was there, thank you so much. And September 11th. It's a hard day to forget. I was very young when it happened, but still vividly remember that day. But okay, so that out of the way. Again, thank you. But we are, of course, we are Computer America, and we have a whole show for you where it's not centered around that, but rather around computer and technology news. Now, I know that yesterday we were promising everyone that we had an author joining us here on the program, but unfortunately, communication issues, they will be rescheduled for another time in the near future. And in the meantime, we have computer and technology news, and that is a segment dedicated entirely to the latest breaking news, articles, reviews, stories, things like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, there's a lot of news to definitely talk about. The biggest news, I think, as far as technology is concerned, is the fact that Apple will be announcing everything really tomorrow. So tomorrow on the program, we have our consumer electronics expert, Miss Sandy Berger. And I believe that obviously whatever is announced tomorrow morning from Apple, we will, of course, have a breakdown of it and a run-through of it with Sandy Berger. So if you're interested in that and just, getting it from us and what was good, what was fluff, what was bad, then we highly encourage you to check out the show here tomorrow, same time, same place. Now, let's see, a couple things before we get started, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So be that links to any articles that we do. If you want to check out the live video feed, which you can also find at twitch.tv/computeramerica, or if you'd like to enter our contest, which is brought to you by Logitech, then all of that can be found at computeramerica.com. All that and more, of course, at our website, including reviews, articles, op-eds, things like that. It's always fun. Now, let's go ahead and get this show started with some computer and technology news, because we have about 15 different articles. I doubt we're going to get to them all, but they're all very interesting, and we'd love for you to hear about them. Here we go, computer and technology news. Now, today, our first story that we are going to do is going to be a lot of great stories. Why don't we go ahead and start with this one, and then I have a very, it's very tangentially related, but, it'll be kind of fun to do. So this first article that we're going to talk about is the fact that Apple, like I mentioned, will be having a keynote tomorrow morning, and that means that a lot of you will soon be trading in your iPhones for the next generation of iPhone. They have a payment plan where you kind of, keep your device nice and safe. And if all goes well, you trade it in, no questions asked, at the end of the year, and you simply trade up to the next one. So, even if you aren't putting yourself out, even though this was completely intentional, we thought it would be a good idea to kind of go over some of the spring cleaning, for phones, some of the best steps that you can take to prepare your phone to be sold, to the next buyer, because we hear about it all the time. Even phones that have gone through the quote unquote sanitation process, they still have a lot of identifying information that if you know where to look and you know how to look, it can still be traced back to you, including pictures of your family, photos on your phone, contact information, personal documents, that kind of thing. That is what we want to avoid. And that's where we have this article from The Verge, where Cameron Faulkner is the author of this. And I thought it'd be a fun little how-to, just to make sure that, hey, you're going to get, just kind of browsing through the article here, they give you some prices. So if you have one of these phones, these are about the prices that you can expect to get. And let's go ahead and start with the basics. So let's see. So you have an iPhone, you are just continuing, or you are using it, and you're thinking about, updating it. Obviously, everything will be announced tomorrow, paraphrasing the article here, but you are thinking about trading up your device. Now, it's pretty easy. Obviously, your phone can go to a lot of places, and there's no shortage of companies that are willing to take your phone and resell it to someone. We've even had a number of them on the show, including places like Gazelle, and there was one, it's like a Eco something, where you can find it at like Walmart, where you just kind of slide your phone in and it pays you right there. Now, the first thing you need to do is inspect your phone, according to the article. Once you've cleaned up your phone, it's never a bad idea to take pictures of it before sending it in. Take note of the imperfections that you're aware of and keep them handy in case you hear reports indicating further damage. Things can get damaged in the mail, and this could very well impact how much you earn from your trade, so it never hurts to keep a couple of photos of your phone. Good luck if you only have your phone to take photos with. I guess maybe a mirror would be kind of up your alley, but yeah, keep photos of your phone. Make sure that whatever you know is wrong, that's the only thing that is wrong with your phone. Second thing, erase your phone. And this is a big one because, as I said before, a lot of people turn in their devices and they don't even think about what is what's buried a bit deeper within the operating system. So before you trade in your phone, you'll want to return it to factory default settings, where you can go into your iCloud settings, ensure that the backup setting is switched on, and that everything that you want to keep is backed up. Yes, you can back up all of your files, all of your contacts, all of your personal settings on your phone to the iCloud, and then completely wipe your phone. And then if you ever, if you decide against it, you want to keep your phone or you want to switch over to a new phone, it's really just that simple. You just re-download all of your settings, all of your files, and it's like you never left. Now, of course, you can do that through iTunes and Apple. I mean, really, if you have an iOS device, it should be pretty simple to understand how to make an iCloud backup. And of course, you can also make local backups, that don't go to the cloud as well. But once you've made a copy of your phone, turn it off. Turn off Find My iPhone, which is located within the iCloud settings. If you have an Apple Watch paired with it, unpair it. Make sure everything and anything is unpaired from your phone. And then once you go to the general settings, simply erase all content and settings. Make sure that you do that. That's the part that trips a lot of people up. They simply delete everything by hand, but then they don't actually erase anything. They don't set anything back to default. And then the final option is now simply to find the best offer. And you can kind of see here where they have a couple of different options. The first one that they give is for the iPhone 10, and really not bad. I mean, for a year-old phone, an iPhone 10, looks like some places such as Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, they well, and these are of course kind of trade-in values. You trade in your old phone and you get that toward a credit towards your next phone. So they have all the different carriers here. Verizon giving up to $633 if you trade in your old iPhone 10 and hey, buy the next phone. This is obviously an article targeted towards those who are looking to trade up. And all these prices kind of go from there. And then even beyond that, if you just want to trade it in for cash and put that towards whatever you want, you can go to some of the websites that we've mentioned before. Or, hey, do what everyone else does. Simply Google "sell my phone" and, hey, click on one of the first two links. There you have it. It's that simple. And there are a couple of other things that you can do. I mean, restoring to factory settings should be good enough for 99% of phones out there. If for some reason you are super, super paranoid, there are some apps within the App Store that will essentially wipe it clean and then wipe the clean phone clean again, so that even if they were to go in and try to find all those photos that were stored but kind of quote unquote erased, even those would be gone. And those are again within the App Store. But I thought that was a pretty interesting article. Obviously, I know that a lot of people, they are on the 1-year refresh cycle, so best to do some basic spring cleaning on your phone if you plan to do that. Now I say that, and then let's see, I have here we go, Tom's Guide. Tom's Guide, a great website. They have a lot of great information. Rarely mention them here on the show because simply they don't. Tom's Guide, I use them a lot for how-tos and product reviews. Rarely do we ever mention their articles that they write. But I found this one a pretty interesting read, and I thought I'd share it on the show here today, where this one was published today, and Mr. Jesus Diaz from Tom's Guide mentioning that maybe, just maybe, it's time to get off the iPhone upgrade rat race that I just mentioned so many of you are on. And I can completely understand it. It's very tempting to go out, buy the new greatest best phone, but there's been a lot of indications that the value that you're getting by trading in your phone year over year just isn't hitting the same benchmarks that it used to. Before, the first iPhone, everyone wanted that thing. It was, it was truly something different. Everything up until the iPhone like 3GS or, the iPhone 5 and 5S, those, there were a lot of upgrades and improvements from one to the next. Maybe not something like the 4 to the 4S, but definitely from the 4 to the 5 to the 5S. There were a lot of upgrades and a lot of reasons to do it. What we've been noticing over the past couple of years, starting with the iPhone 6, and then from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, and 10. Each one of those generations essentially have the same hardware within them. There's a bit of a different form factor, there's a little bit of a better camera, there's a little bit of a faster processor, but all in all, these are very, very marginal upgrades. If you have an iPhone 6 currently, you are probably about as powerful as an iPhone 8. It's only going to be marginally faster. It's, to a lot of people, it's just not worth the upgrade. Now we're heading into a new season where we have more iPhones and soon more options. And yeah, Jesus again kind of makes the point. Maybe it's time to stop worrying if you have the latest iPhone and just wonder if you have a good iPhone. Now, he starts off the article by saying that a refurbished electronics seller is trolling Apple with a parody ad that argues that if the Cupertino company said it was an amazing phone back in 2015, it has to be amazing 3 years later. And they're making a very good point. If you are one of those 500 million people who are thinking about upgrading their old phone and spending about as much as $850 on an entry-level iPhone XC, which we'll talk about tomorrow, or $1,000 or $1,000 on an iPhone XS, maybe you should take a few thousand deep breaths. Instead, if your phone is an iPhone 6 or lower, perhaps you should consider the alternative. Get a low-cost refurbished iPhone 6S instead. hey, we just talked about refurbishing phones. A lot of people sell their perfectly good, reasonable phones, and the only reason that they exist or the only reason that they have an aftermarket for them is because people are chasing that giant shiny prize instead of actually having a legitimate problem with their phone. Now, of course, and they have a little comment here from the electronics company Black Market, which of course deals in refurbished phones, and they would, of course, want you to buy one of their refurbished phones. And he says that he wants your money, and the fact is that while they all look mostly the same, internally there's a big gap in terms of hardware and power between the iPhone 6s and this year's iPhone model. And by big gap, a decent gap. There's certainly benefits, but is it hundreds of dollars worth of difference? Probably not. Now, as a result, many are looking at their next phones elsewhere. Refurbished phones represent the fastest growing segment of the smartphone market. Last year, 1 in 10 smartphones sold were not new, and the growth rate of this segment is far outpacing that of new phones, which is essentially flat. Which, admittedly, that's kind of marketing speak. They say that new phone sales are flat. The only people who are legitimately buying new phones for the first time are those who are just now aging into a point where you can buy a smartphone. Anyone who's going to get a smartphone has already gotten one, and to imagine, like, there's just no more room for growth as far as new phones kind of go. So to say that the used phone market is the fastest growing segment, it's like, of course, because the other one was already dominated. And yeah, so obviously, and by the way, to everyone out there listening on the, everyone out there listening on the IRN Radio Network and elsewhere, thank you for tuning in. Now, we're talking, of course, about these, and so we're obviously talking about these phones, and if your next phone should be a refurbished ones or a brand new one. Now, the article also mentions this ad, which you can find a link to in the show notes. We're not going to listen to it here on the program. But essentially, they're saying, hey, if Apple was really proud of their iPhone 6s 3 years ago, then they should still be proud of it today. So why would there be any reason to go to an iPhone 7 or 8 or 10 if you can still buy an iPhone 6s that works wonderfully? Now, let's see. So, and obviously, because this is Tom's Guide mentioned that they scored the iPhone 6s at a rating of 4.5 out of 5. And they said that has it suddenly worsened to a 1 out of 5 because you don't like the Animoji? And not really. In fact, you can argue that with the features that speed boost provided by the incoming iOS 12, the iPhone 6s will be more useful than ever. I think 6s is going to be the next kind of cutoff. Anything 5s or 5c, they're just too old for the new iOS to run efficiently on. So 6s is now your new bottom floor, and those can be bought for a couple of $100 as compared to $1,000. This is going to be for people who are price conscious. They don't want to spend all that kind of money. They mentioned that you can buy an iPhone 6s for just over $250. That's not that bad at all. So we're going to go ahead and pivot from this article, but it's a completely reasonable argument. I know that obviously we're a news site and we definitely enjoy talking about the latest, greatest, shiniest things, but the previous generation technology, be it graphics cards, laptops, tablets, phones, computers in general, technology in general. Yes, spend as much as you can, but don't feel bad if as much as you can falls into, technology that may be 2 or 3 years old, because that is still very relevant and good technology. It's just, you just aren't paying the massive sticker price of, hey, look how shiny this thing is. Don't worry, let someone else bite the bullet, and then next year you can buy yourself a refurbished iPhone 10, and hey, you'll be happy for it. So again, a rare article from Tom's Guide, very, very interesting read and very, very interesting point. Definitely enjoyed doing that. Let's switch over. We have a couple of stories here. This one is actually kind of related, so we're going to do that. We're going to squeeze all the iOS stuff that we can, and then, of course, we're going to talk completely about Apple tomorrow. It's going to be an iOS-rich couple of days. Warning now. But this is an article from TechCrunch talking about the best security and privacy features in iOS 12 and Mac Mojave. Yeah, and Mac OS Mojave. So obviously, Apple or Mac OS went through a couple of iterations where they were naming their operating system after different mountains. Now they're onto deserts. And Mac OS Mojave is the newest, latest, greatest, and it will be the 6th iteration of the Mac operating system, named after a location in California where Apple is based, saying that it comes with dark mode, file stacks, and group FaceTime calls. Finally, catching up with Skype. Now, Safari, and so the first thing that they mentioned is Safari, the browser native to Macs. Safari now prevents browser fingerprinting and cross-site tracking. This will obviously be a privacy tool and one that we are finding in more and more on more and more browsers. I think Mozilla Firefox had it. I'm sure Opera has it, and now we have Safari, where Safari will use a new intelligent tracking prevention feature to prevent advertisers from following you from site to site. Even social networks like Facebook know which sites you visit because so many embed Facebook tools like the comment section or the like button. And they mentioned that this matters because tracking prevention will prevent ad firms from building unique fingerprint of your browser, making it difficult to serve you targeted ads, even when you're in incognito mode or private browsing. And that's an automatic boost for personal privacy, as these companies will find it more difficult to build up profiles about you. We've had this argument on the show before. Many of you out there, I'm sure, are thinking, what's wrong with targeted ads? That means that they know me, they know what I like, and that means that I will only see ads for things that I will potentially want to buy. It's kind of an informed decision. Whereas others go, yeah, I find it kind of creepy that using any website out there tracks you before you come onto their website. They know exactly what website you came from, and then they follow you after you visit the website, and they use these kind of super cookies. I'm sure they're not super cookies. Those were a product of a couple of years ago, but they track you after you leave their site. And regardless of where you come down on the issue, you have to admit there's not a lot of validity into thinking that a company has the right to track you, not while you are on their site. Because if you are on their site, you're essentially using their service, and there's some merit to that. But after you navigate away from, let's say, Apple.com should no longer have any right to monitor your activity, your traffic, what you're doing, where you're going, how often you click. They should not have access to that kind of information. You're not making an agreement with them after you leave the site. Now, that's the first one. The second one, camera, microphone, backups now require permission. They said that just like when an app asks you for access to your contacts or calendar, now Mojave will ask permission before an app can access your FaceTime camera and microphone, as well as location data, backups, and more. They said that by expanding this feature, it makes it much more difficult for apps to switch on your camera without warning or record from your microphone without noticing. That's going to prevent surreptitious ultrasonic ad tracking, which is a real thing, and surveillance by malware that hijack your camera. But also asking permission for the access to your backups will prevent malware and hackers from quietly stealing your data. I really like that. The fact that they are going to build it in hard-coded into the operating system, that if you want to access the camera for any reason, even yourself, if you want to access your camera for any reason, you have to ask permission for it to be turned on. By making that lower in the operating system, making it much higher priority that you have to ask, it gives people who would like to record you a much narrower path to turn that camera on without your noticing. Very important. I like that one a lot. Now moving on to iOS 12, you can kind of follow along here on the video portion. But iOS 12, it lands on more recent iPhones and iPads, but will bring significant performance boost to older supported devices and new maps, smart notifications, and an updated AI kit. Passwords will warn of a password reuse, saying that it has a built-in password manager which stores all your passwords for easy access and will now tell you it will tell you if you're using the same password across different sites and apps. I definitely have to check out the password manager. I want to see how that one works. Ideally, you would simply have one password that you remember for your password manager, and then your password manager would remember all of your passwords. That would be very, very strong, very secure, hard to recreate through any means, and everyone would be much safer for it. A lot of browsers, they have plugin support for different password managers. We mentioned them here on the program. We highly encourage that, be it LastPass, FastPass, whatever program that you may use, we encourage that you get one. But if it's built into the iOS 12 operating system, maybe more people will use them by default, simply because it's available and it's there and you don't have to go out of your way. Now, the next one, and looks like there's only about 2 more left. I think we can squeeze these in before the break. The next one will be 2-factor codes will be auto-filled, saying that when you are sent 2-factor code, such as a text message or a push notification, I've had to do it. It is not my favorite part of security. It is not my favorite part of being a good digital citizen. But I think this feature is going to take a lot of the headache out of that. When you are sent a 2-factor code, iOS 12 will take that code and automatically enter it into the login box, saying that this matters because 2-factor authentication is good for security, where it adds an extra layer on top of your username and password. But adoption is low because 2-factor is cumbersome and frustrating. This feature keeps the feature security intact while making it more seamless and less annoying. Indeed, I love that feature. If you aren't using 2-factor authentication for really most things that you care about, then shame on you. It's a really great technology and highly encourage it, more so if this happens by default now. And then the last one will be a USB restricted mode makes hacking more difficult, saying that a new security feature will lock any accessory out of your device, including USB cables and headphones, when your iPhone or iPad has been locked for more than an hour. We have mentioned on the show before that a lot of police officers and private security firms, since everyone has an iPhone, it's really a very, very popular single phone out there. It's really the most popular. Like, obviously, Android is more popular by numbers, but single phone, it's going to be the iOS, or it's going to be the iPhone. They get access by hooking up devices, spoofing essentially a trusted source, a trusted computer or whatever, and they're able to access the phone and unlock it through these kinds of means. The fact that this new security feature will lock the iPhone or the iPad if it's been locked for more than an hour, i.e. the time that it would take for any investigator to take your phone out of your pocket, hand it to someone, and by the time it gets to any security firm, potentially being more than an hour, because, hey, bureaucracy takes that long, odds are this thing will be locked down even further. It's an optional feature. You have to switch it on, but it will make it more difficult for law enforcement and hackers to plug in your device and steal your sensitive data. Because, as I said, if they have access to the physical phone, eventually they're going to be able to crack it, unless they have this USB restricted mode on. I love that feature. Can't wait to hear about it tomorrow. And yeah, so be sure to tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk all things Apple. Everyone, music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More Computer America right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. The mute switch is a horrible thing. But welcome back to the Computer America Show. I hope all of you are doing well. If you missed any part of today's show so far, feel free to check us out at computeramerica.com/podcast, I think, or there's a button at the top there, and you can see all of the places you can download the podcast and catch us after the fact, or wherever your favorite podcasts are. You can, of course, find Computer America there as well. And hey, I'm not gonna say how to live your life, but if you like, there's a lot of there's a lot of applications out there that will automatically download the Computer America podcast as soon as we upload it. It will download it directly to your phone. Not saying you have to, just saying it's there. It's an option. Now we were just talking all things iOS in the first half of the show, and we should be talking about iOS tomorrow. But in the meantime, we have a lot of different articles here that we can discuss that are different and a bit more, maybe a bit more up your alley if you really don't care about iPhones in the least. Let's go ahead and talk about. All right, this is going to be a long article. I don't know how long this will take, but this is one that I definitely like bringing up on the show as much as I can, because it's a very, as someone who has repaired their own phone, and I'm not saying that I'm a genius when it comes to fixing devices, it's just my devices tend to get rained on, crushed by trucks, I drop them often. I have since started using different phone cases, so, that was a life lesson learned. But the right to fix something yourself, as opposed to being cajoled into, sending it back to a factory for repairs, what cost me 2 hours of my time, and yes, I'm slow, 2 hours of my time and $15, $20 worth of parts, could have been $150 plus repair, and I would have been out of my phone for a week or two. In some instances, it just makes sense to be able to fix things on your own how you see fit. That's called the right to repair. There have been a lot of conversations in court where you see companies that don't traditionally have anything to do with each other really start to, align themselves along these lines. And in this case, looking at this article from Motherboard, which is, of course, the tech division of Vice, and they did this great article about the right to repair by Jason Kobler, talking about farmer lobbying group sells out farmers, helps enshrine John Deere's tractor repair monopoly. So yes, Apple and John Deere are on the same sides of the idea that just because you bought a John Deere tractor, just because you bought an iPhone, doesn't mean that you have the right to go in and fix it. Doesn't mean that you strictly through and through own your device. And you can see that where farmers, really, farmers are the ones leading the charge on this. Where if you have a tractor and you need that tractor today, for you to be able to go out, download a different operating system for your tractor so that it works and fix it yourself because you don't have the funds to fix your $250,000 tractor, or you don't have the time to be out your $250,000 tractor, being able to do it yourself is, in a lot of cases, the best and only route that these farmers have. But John Deere doesn't think so. They create their own operating system, their own software updates, their own drivers, a lot of proprietary software. And they say that even if you buy your own tractor, you do not simply own your tractor and everything within it. That is ours. It's our intellectual property. They're our drivers. It's our operating system. You can't go about mucking up our stuff. Now, this is where the court battle has been going on for a couple of years now. Let's see what the update is today, where the California Farm Bureau has agreed to a toothless version of the right to repair that was written by the tractor manufacturers. For better or worse, here we go. Farmers have been some of the strongest allies in the ongoing battle to make it easier to fix their electronics. And again, I just need to point out, by extension, this is going to be everyone, because this, tractors today, phones, tablets, computers, everything else tomorrow. This week, though, a powerful organization that's supposed to lobby on behalf of farmers in California has sold them out by reaching a watered-down agreement that will allow companies like John Deere to further cement their repair monopolies. Farmers around the country have been hacking their way past the software locks that John Deere and other manufacturers put on tractors and other farm equipment, and the Farm Bureau lobbying organization has thus far been one of the most powerful to put its weight behind the right to repair legislation, which would require manufacturers to sell repair parts, make diagnostic tools and repair information available to the public, and would require manufacturers to provide a way to get around proprietary software locks that are designed to prevent repair. A lot of these measures you also see in things like cars. If, in some cases, if it's the computer that's the problem with your car, and trust me, there are computers in today's cars, you may know that they require you are 100% required to take it to a quote unquote licensed, insert car brand here, dealer to be able to diagnose and repair. They have these secretive, codes that you have to Google, and even if you Google them, you can't diagnose and repair them yourself. You have to have these secret manuals. And hey, look, there's a lot of ways that they make it very hard to repair your own equipment, which again, farmers and a lot of people should not be for. Now, in most states, the legislation would cover all electronics, including tractors, cell phones, computers, video game consoles, appliances, and everything in between. So far, this legislation has been proposed in 19 states, but has yet to be passed in a single one. In any case, the momentum and outrage behind the right to repair movement is real, and of course, they have been anxious to show that manufacturers like Deere aren't actively trying to cheat farmers, while continuing to do just that. In February, so earlier this year, the Equipment Dealer Association promised to make a few concessions. Notably, the group said Deere and others would begin to make repair manuals, product guides, and diagnostic service tools and onboard diagnostic available to farmers by 2021. 3 years to do that. Seems like a long time. Notably, it would not promise to actually sell repair parts and also contain several carve-outs. that allow tractor manufacturers to continue using software locks that could prevent repair. So even if you could repair your device, even if you know exactly what was wrong, and by some miracle you were able to actually buy the repair part that you needed, you would still have to go to a licensed dealer to have it installed and switched out because of these software locks. They said that this is what the Equipment Dealer Association voluntarily offered to do for every farmer in the country earlier this year, where in the meantime, the Equipment Dealers Association has continued to fight against comprehensive right to repair legislation, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, this is very clearly companies versus the people. These kinds of fights come up often. Net neutrality was another one. These fights come up in technology more often than others because a lot of power is centered in the hands of very few companies. There's only so many companies that can provide you a $250,000 tractor, and they have every incentive to make sure that you go back to them when you need it repaired and serviced and and the software updated, because they know that is their, or they can make a lot of money. They stand to make a lot of money over this. The article continues. It is beyond comprehension, then, why the California Farm Bureau, which should normally have the interests of farmers in mind, reached an agreement with the Equipment Dealers Association that had concessions that they already agreed to without seemingly get anything else out of it. And hey, they didn't even try to get the 2021 timeline moved up. Now you can see some infographics here that they have put up. If you're watching the video portion, you can kind of see it here. But essentially, they said that a side-by-side analysis of the promises made in the document and the one that they put out in February and the one that they signed last week are identical. The statement of principles below are also identical to a PDF that the Equipment Dealers Association put out in February. And if anything, it's more restrictive because it enshrines that the Farm Bureau of California now believes that farmers are not supposed to do with their tractors, which include modifying and embedded software. We talk a lot about Linux here on the show. We have a dedicated show to Linux every single month. Linux actually had some there were actually some distributions of Linux that were made specifically to run on these tractors. The right to open source, the right to share the software and tinker with it, do what you need to do with it, give it to others for free. That was actually working out very well for the tractor owners, because if you had a software problem, you could just download this new operating system for your tractor and download it. That is no longer the case. And in fact, they say that you cannot do that now. And they said that that's exactly the point where there will likely no longer be a right to repair push from farmers in California. And this means that it is the most powerful lobby fighting for right to repair sold out its constituency for no discernible reason. And by agreeing to a manufacturer-centric version of the right to repair, they got literally nothing that they weren't already going to get. Now, the article goes on for a bit more. You can see, some of the, some more documents here within the article. But yeah, I think that's as far as we're going to take that. It's just a very interesting case, because what happens with these farmers, what happens with John Deere is going to extend to Apple and the right to repair your iPhone. If you ever have dreams of sending your iPhone, or not even sending, of keeping your iPhone, changing the screen yourself, and saving the money, the time, the energy, the effort, that could quickly start going away, because they can put up all kinds of hurdles, including the fact that, let's say, in order to swap the screens or to pair the screens, you have to have certain kind of software that pairs the part number with the operating system. And if you don't have the phone plugged in to do that, then your screen will not work because it is not the proper screen. We've already seen things like that come out of Apple, and it's along the same lines of what we're talking about here with tractors. It's unfortunate. I hope that the fight goes on. The right for individuals to, of course, own the equipment that they buy, the right to do whatever you want with your device that you pay good money for, is quickly going away. So we'll definitely keep up to date on that, but I found that to be a very interesting turn. Okay. I'll admit, that was a heavy article. That was heavy. There's no getting around it. Let's talk about something not quite as heavy. Let's try to keep it light here for these next couple of articles, and we have some good ones. We have one about murder. That's not light. We're gonna skip that one for now. Let's discuss teeth. You know, those things, they're, I don't know, made out of bones and pixie dust, whatever they're made out of on your face. Teeth, they're pretty important. They help you do things like eat steak. It's beautiful what they do. Now, though, the Pentagon wants to fiddle with that just a little bit. Calcium, yeah, sure. Your teeth are made out of milk. You heard it here first, folks. But the Pentagon wants to put radios on rescuers' teeth. Think of bone induction noise or headphones. Bone induction headphones where, you know, they kind of press this thing against your jaw or something like that, and the vibrations go through your bones, radiate into your inner ear, and you can essentially hear things without there being any kind of audible noise. In certain rescue situations, i.e., think of a helicopter dropping a rescuer down and there being a lot of noise and a lot of ambient noise and, you know, just whatever, you want as clear of a sound as you can possibly get to these people. Now you can with the molar mic. I don't know who named that. They were having a good day. Molar mic communicates sound by sending vibrations through the teeth and skull, enabling telepathy-like communications straight out of a video game. This one was pretty cool, and like, it's cool because it's not a brand new, crazy, out of nowhere technology. It's bone induction. It's a known technology, but in this application, that's what makes it unique. So the Pentagon just cut a $10 million deal with Sonatus Technologies to develop a wireless, tooth-based communication device that the company calls the Molar Mic. This injection of cash is just the latest round of military funding for Sonatus, which received early funding from InQtel, a CIA investment company, in 2016. So the CIA has invested in this. Now we are looking at the Pentagon. And I'm sure the FBI and the others, if they have investment funds themselves, they're looking into this as well. The molar mic slides over the back molar of the user's mouth. Each piece is custom fitted, so they don't just assume that everyone has the same kind of teeth, and uses near-field magnetic induction, such as a really short-range Bluetooth that is not impeded by the human body, to make a connection with the rest of the kit. Users push a button to activate the mic. So there's probably a receiver somewhere on their body, and then that receiver to their mouth will act as the connection. Bluetooth would obviously be to Bluetooth doesn't work well going through different kinds of substances, and one of those substances being the human body. Bluetooth would get a little hairy. Obviously, they went with this near-field magnetic induction. Now, the mic is waterproof. Good. It's going to be spending a lot of time in someone's mouth. And its speaker works using bone conduction, meaning it sends vibrations through your jaw and up into your inner ear, where the vibrations then mimic as if you were just hearing it out into the out ambiently. It works very well. It's as I said, it's a known technology. It's not crazy. It's just having that little custom fit tooth molding that can vibrate your jaw. That's the new one. The technology has already been tested in Afghanistan and during relief efforts during Hurricane Harvey. According to a press release, a pararescueman deployed to help flood victims near Houston used the Mueller mic to communicate with a helicopter crew while airlifting an injured civilian out of the water, saying that the crew was amazed that they could hear clearly I'm sorry, it's probably the pararescuemen in these conditions. They said that the Mike Mueller can pick up a whisper with no problem and in loud environments, like say a helicopter over an ocean, where it won't hinder communication because the user's mouth provides a natural shield against ambient noise. So not only does it send information to the person wearing it, but very subtly, without speaking anything louder or into anything, you can then receive information as well. This seems like a natural fit. Very, very cool technology, and Sonatus. It's I'm not surprised that earpieces, even though they've been seen in science fiction and military movies for a long time, earpieces seem to be going. And if this technology works, the only drawback I see is that obviously earpieces are not custom fit. They slip over the ear, they embed right there. Noise canceling technology, that kind of thing, are getting better and better. But if you can equip everyone that you need with a custom molded tooth cap, that sounds like a pretty good option to, obviously, nothing would be able to fall off. It'd be in a much more secure environment than if it were built into something, strapped onto your head. This seems like a good option. It's very, very cool. There we have it. That one again from Motherboard, and I just thought that one was a little bit off the wall. Okay, we have time for two more stories. Again, keeping it light, keeping it good. How about, man, not a lot of light stories. Technology is heading into very scary places. Let me just, as someone who follows technology as fervently as I do, technology is starting to head into some scary places, as we can tell by this, by these articles. Let's talk about some good things. Robotic trees. Trees of yesterday. They have leaves. They shed. They're gross. They're icky. Yeah, those are trees of yesterday. We don't need those. Rip them all out, apparently, because now we have robotic trees that can turn CO2 into concrete. That's right. Instead of taking in CO2, trees taking carbon dioxide, photosynthesize, and spit out oxygen. We don't need those anymore. Forget that. We don't need oxygen because now we have concrete. This is cool. This is an article from Gadget, Mr. Andrew Tarantola, talking about direct air carbon capture could counter climate change. And to a very small degree. Obviously, it's this issue of climate change and CO2 in the air being a very, very big problem. But it's going to be a lot of little ideas like these that's going to counter it. Now, climate change is killing our planet. That's a sentence, not a question. Don't argue with me. Don't send me hate mail. This is the way of things. The excess production of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are filling the atmosphere and, of course, warming the Earth faster than it could through natural processes. Now, direct air capture, the technology that we're talking about here today, is one of a number of still largely theoretical methods of collecting and sequestering the atmospheric carbon directly being looked at. And despite their varied methods, all of the techniques seek to accomplish the same goal. Pull carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and sequester it or store it in a form that will contribute to the effects of store it in a form that will not contribute to the effects of global warming. Obviously, if you, and by the way, video portion, we're going to throw up some chemistry here. Who the heck knows? But they want to pull CO2 out of the air, and in this case, keep it as concrete. They're going to turn it into concrete so that then, obviously, we need a lot of concrete to build buildings and to build infrastructure here or anywhere. Why not have the carbon pulled out of the air where we definitely don't need it and use it for something that we definitely do need? Now, bioenergy with carbon capture and storage is the most researched technique to date, and as plants grow, they absorb carbon from the atmosphere. And however, when that biomass is burned in power plants to generate electricity, that carbon is released back out into the atmosphere, which they say is a net zero effect. So far what we have is power plants that will pull it out of the air, use it, burn it, and re-release it. So even though it pulls CO2 out of the air, it doesn't mean that it keeps it from there. It simply just redistributes it back, which, don't get me wrong, is it's a heck of a lot better than adding to the problem, but it doesn't really solve the problem. It keeps us at status quo. They said that it's already being utilized at the industrial scale. 3 test facilities located throughout Europe and the UK have been pulling an estimated 550,000 tons of CO2 annually since 2012. Not bad. The other technological front in greenhouse gas sequestration is DAC, where unlike flue gas capture systems, blah blah blah, they which can only effectively collect CO2 directly from the factory smokestack, where the carbon dioxide is more concentrated. DACs can capture carbon at more diverse and distributed sources. Now, let's go ahead and skip. This article's way longer than I was expecting, but let's go ahead and skip to the meaty part. Now, they said that direct air capture could become a major industry if the technology matures and prices drop dramatically. That was said by Professor Chris Field, a former co-chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They said that direct air capture might require much less land, but entails much higher costs and consumption of a large fraction of global energy production. And of course, that's not stopping a number of entrepreneurs from trying. In fact, efforts over the past few years have already seen DAC sequestration drop from between $94 and $232 per ton. Not bad. To me, this is the best part, where we know what's happening. We know that we can do it. The only hurdle being a fiscal one. And of course, financial, doesn't just mean money, but it means man hours, means building, that kind of thing. But what I really like about it is that we can look at this problem and go, well, that's unsolvable. There's no solution for it. It is what it is. No, it's just that's not a feasible solution at the moment. There's technology we can build upon and we can perfect, refine, and reform. This problem of climate change is doable. We can tackle it with technology. Technology has definitely contributed a lot to what's been happening with global warming. You can look at shipping costs associated with a lot of the production chain, blah blah blah. You can go all the way back to the Industrial Revolution if you want to start see the beginning effects of what we're kind of dealing with today. But any problem caused by technology, in my mind, can be solved by technology. And being able to take that carbon directly out of the air and affect our environment at a global level, that is comforting to me. Now we just need really smart people and really motivated investors, governments, large companies. And trust me, losing your planet is a big motivation. Need them motivated, need the technology, and hey, we will be sitting very pretty. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America Show. The music means that we're just about done here for today. Thank you for tuning in and happy that you could. Again, everyone out there, I hope you've been having a great day. Thank you for tuning into Computer America, choosing us to be your easy listening as you go through your workday. And catch us here tomorrow, where we should be having, and by all accounts, we've already got a confirmation, we will be talking with Sandy Berger. She is our Computer America consumer electronics expert, and we will be talking all things Apple as far as we know them. 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. If you miss any part of today's show, check out the podcast. And until tomorrow, everyone, be safe, be good. Everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.